What's going on, guys? We are back at Prepper School Live, volume 15.
Wow, 15.
Out of stock. Out of stock. I can't believe it either. Out of stock, supply chain issues. We're going to talk today about some stuff. But first things first, we really appreciate Robbie Wheaton for being here. And guys, Robbie's been a gunsmith for over 20 years and has a great line of Glock aftermarket parts. In fact, their flat face trigger. Do you bring that flat face trigger?
Did. I got you.
That's I gotta have my flat face trigger. They do a great job, and then he's also does custom gun work. But something I want you to really check out that he's gotten started. We've been talking about this past couple of weeks. Is his YouTube channel, and he used to do a lot of little things on there with gunsmithing stuff, but now he's doing reviews. So check out Robbie Wheaton or Wheaton Arms. Just Wheaton Arms.
Yep, Robbie Wheaton or Wheaton Arms. You can find me either way on YouTube with that. And I think I bring a really unique perspective to a lot of the firearms that are out there with my reviews, just with the background and experience that I have through gunsmithing, manufacturing, competitive shooting. It just gives me a pretty broad background to really be able to pull from with my reviews of my firearms. So check it out. I think you'll be interested.
Yeah, I think it's excellent. Yeah. Top 10 things you need to know before you buy different guns.
That's right.
It's really good because I've been watching it. And so anyway, we really appreciate you guys being here today. Also, Sarah Mack for setting up everything. She's going to be taking some questions. If you have questions, and you can go ahead and start asking questions now, and she'll start monitoring those. We're going to take a break in a minute. We appreciate Sportsman's Guide for sponsoring today's episode. They give a $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, just SOOTCH in the coupon code.
Yep.
Your turn, Robbie.
Dude, I'm going to be out spaced out. I'm completely gone. I just checked out.
We have here.
But check out their Buyers Club as well. Their Buyers Club, you get additional savings as well as free shipping on the majority of their items.
Yeah, Sportsman's Guide guys are really great, and there's a
Pull
lot
it together, man.
We really love Sportsman's Guide for ourselves. I buy stuff all the time on Sportsman's Guide. I use my coupon. It saves me $20, and it's great. And
I always say their magazine, if you don't have their magazine, you absolutely need to get their magazine. It is some of the best reading material that you can put in the bathroom possible. Hands down. Just saying, from a guy's perspective,
But also, they do a huge amount of surplus stuff. In fact, I'm working on something right now that's really cool, but they do a lot of surplus, all kind of stuff. And especially for preppers, it's a great way to get some lesser expensive stuff, but yet good quality.
Yep.
And then also check out Scottsdale Mint. If you guys, precious metals, protects your wealth. And I've known those guys over at Scottsdale for over 10 years. And Josh is a great guy. And so check it out. Scottsdale Mint. There's a link down below in the description. Okay. Now that we got all those blatant capitalist ideas and advertising out of the way, we really do appreciate those guys.
On to the meat and potatoes.
On to it. Okay. So first off, guys, what kind of spawned this is watching this Freedom Convoy. Which is awesome. And I love that people are standing up because, guys, we need to make sure that we're putting our voice out. And there's some debate about, should we protest? Does it do any good? But, guys, I feel like that it's important that we take a stand and we can see what's really going on. And so I really salute those people. And then now with the U.S. convoy coming, and it's on the way. I saw some stuff this morning. As Russia's invading Ukraine, we're doing a freedom convoy. So,
the thing is, those that speak the loudest, their voices are heard.
Right. That's right.
And, we've been quiet for a long time. The left is not. They've been loud. They've been screaming. They've been yelling. They've been, tearing stuff up. Their voices have been heard.
Right.
There comes a point when we have to be loud and we have to make sure that our voice is heard as well.
But one of the things about this is, and it's something that really kind of hit me just thinking about all this stuff, is that we're already have low inventory in a lot of places, including grocery stores are one that I see quite a bit
every day.
I mean, there's supply issues that are already going on. So we're seeing some out of stocks. And of course, with the labor shortage, guys, it's real. It's everywhere. We can't go into a restaurant now without really having a lot of patience.
That's right.
And and we should. And honestly, I actually give extra tips to the service, because they really,
if the seating area is even open in the restaurants, a lot of your restaurants, the seating areas aren't even open because they don't have the servers to be able to take care of the patrons in the store, in the restaurant.
We went through, and I might have mentioned this the other day, but we went through a KFC, Sarah Mack and I went through the drive-through because the dining room was closed.
Mm-hmm.
They had 2 employees and they had a huge line, and I hadn't been to KFC in forever. So we really wanted. So we went ahead and got in line. The guy goes, "I'm sorry, we're getting to you, but there's only 2 of us here." And I thought, 2 of you. So when I went through the drive-through, I stopped, and the guy, super nice, black guy, just awesome guy. I mean, he's really friendly, but he was like, "I'm sorry," and he was running around, and a girl in the back. When he gave me the card, I gave him $20. I said, "Thank you for coming into work. Would you split this with that girl?" And so, showing gratitude and patience. But there is this massive labor shortage, and we're going to see it not in a lot of areas, and in the supply chain area. Also, shipping costs are way up right now and going up. And we're talking about international shipping coming in. So, and a lot of us already know this. With this freedom protest or this freedom convoy, it's going to affect things a little bit more.
It will. That's right.
And so that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk about this today. One of the things about, we've kind of interspaced a lot of the things we're going to talk about into different ideas with prepping and being prepared. And so, but these are just things that I think that are good to do, some ideas to think about if you do run into shortages, because,
Well, and one of the big things, like you were just talking about with international shipping, sea containers, normally it's around $4,000 to ship a full sea container from one country to another. And right now it's $15,000 to $20,000 to ship a sea container.
Wow.
So just to kind of give you some numbers, and that cost is going to be reflected across the board to your distributors, to your retailers, all the way out to the consumer. That's where you're seeing a lot of your price increases on imported goods from other countries. You buy stuff on Amazon, you're seeing a price increase there across the board on everything because the shipping costs have almost quadrupled.
Right.
So, and that's a lot of money.
It is. Now, one good side to this, honestly, is that American producers hopefully can capitalize on this.
Right.
I mean, as far as a good point.
That's right.
I really would love to see that. Because of the shipping costs, they're going to be able actually to compete more.
That's right. To be competitive with the imported products and goods.
But the problem right now is
labor
getting
shortage.
Stuff from here to there just in the U.S.
So labor shortage, and then you have supply chain issues. You have issues getting inventory, raw materials to be able to actually to produce products.
Right.
So it's still a big issue over here as well.
Well, and then getting goods from Europe. And if there is a full-on war over there, which, things have already started coming apart, it could affect us as well. Okay, so guys, let's just face it, we've been watching this kind of happen in front of us. But that's not what we want to do. We don't want to talk about all the problems because the problems are always going to be there. We want to talk about solutions, and solutions are the big plus. And that's why we prep. We prep to, because, the thing is, you see a problem, you're like, oh, a problem. Oh no. And this is happening. And you worry. You don't worry. Think about some other ideas.
Well, it's okay to recognize that there are problems and recognize that there are issues going on. The big thing a lot of people do is it's problem after problem after problem, instead of, okay, here's a problem. Now here's 3 solutions for this problem. Here's another problem. Here's 3 more solutions for that problem. Anytime you step up and you have to face a problem in your life, you need to immediately address solutions for that problem, multiple solutions, A, B, C, and D. These are what are going to happen if it gets worse. You may get all the way down to D, E, or F. But, having solutions to those problems is really going to bring you some peace of mind.
That's right. Okay, so now one of the big things, though, that I want to start out with is, number one, when you have shortages, let's just take the grocery store. I mean, that's one that's vital.
Yeah.
So you need to find alternate supply chains, alternate supply ways. A lot of us get in this habit. We go here, we go there to buy our stuff. Right now is a great time to start investigating, especially locally.
That's right. Places
that you can find things. One of the big things, though, first off, which is real local, and that's your own garden. Guys, during World War II, that was one of the big things was victory gardens, and people planted gardens right there. Robbie's big on gardening.
Absolutely.
We're big on gardening. In fact, we're getting ready to really expand our garden area. But the thing is, you don't wait to the last minute. You go ahead and start planning ahead of time. But guys, I'm serious. It's really gardening, and you may be in a small apartment with a little deck. If you can grow tomatoes, that's something. If you can grow something right there, in a little balcony area or whatever.
There's a lot of garden stuff you can grow in pots. A lot of stuff you can grow in pots.
Some apartments actually allow people to garden on top,
on the roofs,
in container gardens and things like that. And so going ahead and finding out these things and investigating, what are my options? What can I do? I've got a limited amount of space. What can I do? We have a lot of friends. In fact, we have friends in our prepper group that live in neighborhoods, and they have limited space. And they are actually doing really well by building these gardens. Have a buddy of mine that actually has a koi pond in his back. It's really large. I mean, it's like 15. No, it's not 15,000, but it's a lot of water. A nice little pond, and he lives in a really nice neighborhood, and it just fits into what he's doing. But his idea is, this is my water prep. So having some, you have a deck. Put some containers out there. And grow your vegetables. But obviously having a full garden is great. Now, and one of the things too, guys, is you don't have to necessarily sustain your whole self with a garden, but it's great to have it if you're bringing in, especially long-term food storage. Some of that stuff is not very palatable in some ways. And being able to supplement with fresh vegetables.
It's a great supplement. Absolutely.
And if you can't get to the grocery store, or they're running low, or the quality's low. So finding alternate sources, gardening, husbandry. We have someone that lives close to us that raises rabbits and chickens. And, you probably have somebody in your area somewhere. Now, if you're living in a real urban area, some of this stuff, you can still go outside of that area.
That's right.
I have a friend of mine that lives in another country, and what they do is they live in a big city and it's piled in, but they go out to the countryside and they'll get vegetables and things they need, and they can buy them locally. So, farmers markets are a great place to be able to find locally. But let me see. I'm trying to make sure I got everything. Okay, canning supply. We have a list over there, by the way, to keep us on track. Canning supplies. Let's say you do have a garden, but you're not, you haven't gotten your canning supplies together. Guys, when gardening season starts, those canning supplies dry up, especially the lids.
That's right. Now's the time to be getting all of that stuff together.
Yeah, go ahead and get your seeds, get some things. Go ahead and start planning to have an idea about a garden. If we're facing food shortages, which is a possibility, I'm not saying it's a sure thing, but it's definitely a possibility.
It's the reality. You're already seeing shortages in the grocery stores.
You
go in the grocery stores and you go to the meat counter. The meat counters they might not be completely bare, but they are way, way understocked. The aisles in the stores, you look at the different aisles in the stores that are normally packed with a variety of goods, and they're sparse. You're getting down to, you can go to the junk food aisle and there's plenty of junk food, right? But if you're trying to eat healthy, eating fruits and eating vegetables and eating meats, things that are good for you, when you go to those aisles, those are the items that you're seeing that are starting to go away already.
Well, usually junk food, like potato chips, things like that, they're made locally a lot of times in factories that are stationed around. So their transportation is their own small trucks.
Right.
So, you can see some of that, but you're right. That's not necessarily things that are going to sustain you.
That's right.
So anyway, going ahead and planning out. It's like we have a place not too far from here that's a dairy. And it's called Happy Cow. And they sell milk, and they sell it to the public. They're open to the public. There are places like that all around, where you can get cheese, your milk, different things, different cheese products or milk products. Of course, obviously farmers markets, or even local farmers a lot of times will have stands out, and you can buy vegetables. And see, they don't have to ship. So it's a little bit easier for them. But you want to go ahead and kind of establish where those places are. And then let's say one thing we do every year, we'll get a beef. We split a beef, or sometimes we've gotten a whole beef. And it's, not, no hormones, no additives, all that. And so it's really good. Of course, the chickens are also something that you can resource. But it's good to go ahead now and start thinking about some of those other options, because again, a lot of times we're just thinking, I'm gonna run up to the grocery store, and you get up there and they don't have the things you need.
Mm-hmm.
You've got backups, and so now is the time to start planning some of that stuff and getting together. And there's some ranches around. I mean, you can go and again, where you can get beef, you can get things like that. So those are good. Now, with that being said, on your garden, you could also raise chickens. Rabbits are really good. In fact, that's something we're looking into this year, is possibly putting in, rabbits and being able, because they're, like we talked about the other week, they're easy to clean.
They are. Rabbits are super easy to clean. We've raised rabbits for years to eat, and one of the best ones that I've found are the Flemish Giants. Like 2 months from birth to 2 months, you can harvest that rabbit and go ahead and eat it. They grow that big, that fast. Super tender, just amazing to eat. Easy to clean, easy to process. So, if you're looking at getting into rabbits as an alternative food source, the Flemish Giants are a great variety to look at.
And they breed like rabbits.
Amazingly.
And that's one thing they're crazy breeders. So, it just keeps the supply going.
Yep.
And two, you can use that especially if you get too many, which is possible, is you can use that as a bartering tool.
That's right.
Is a bartering tool. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and give you a heads up. We're going to be taking some questions coming up. And so if you've got them, again, Sarah Max watching. Okay. Now, a lot of times, though, there are things that you just can't find. You go to the store, they don't have it. You're going to different places. There are other alternatives there as well. Flea markets are a great resource for finding things, tools, different supplies, even rabbits and chickens and things like that. A lot of times, if you don't know where that, there's usually a flea market somewhere around. We have some really big ones here in the South, but up north, I'm not sure how they do.
And they're great for like local fruits and vegetables. You can get your fruits, you can get vegetables, you can get eggs, you can get chickens, you can get rabbits. And a lot of people are willing to barter and trade instead of just, cash exchange for different items. So you've got some different alternatives there if you're low on cash to be able to purchase items as well.
Okay, you have some questions. We'll go ahead and have a few, and then we'll continue because we still have a nice list of stuff.
88 Chevy IRC asks.
IROC. It's called an IROC.
IROC?
Yeah.
Thank you. Finally caught one live. Hello from Illinois. How much gasoline do you recommend putting back? We are a family of 5 with 3 vehicles. Thanks in advance.
Well, I'll tell you, we just had some experience with that. One of the problems with storing up gasoline is that it's really volatile. And so, you got to be careful. But so I would highly recommend, number one, that you have a place to store any gasoline that you have off premises, maybe in a small building, maybe somewhere, maybe just covered,
or even an underground tank if you have access to one.
Yeah, I saw one guy had an old refrigerator and actually buried it, and then he could put the gas in it, and he closed up the lid and he sealed it. But that is going to be the biggest problem with gasoline, and I'll give you some ideas. If you're buying gas cans, make sure that you store up a few cans of gas. You can do that. I mean, you do it all the time with lawnmowers anyway.
Yep.
But you don't want to store it too long because gas does have a shelf life, and they're stable and different additives that you can extend your life on your gasoline. But I mean, it's according to where you go. It's according to how much you work. It's according to what you do. We usually keep about 7 or 8 5-gallon containers.
Yep. About a week's worth of gas is what I normally keep on hand. And my reasoning behind that is I've got a week's worth, and we rotate it out pretty regularly. If you see that there's a shortage in fuel, you'll see it before it hits the mainstream media. You'll start seeing gas stations. You'll pull into the pumps, and they'll have the bags on the pumps where gas isn't available. When you start seeing things like that, that may be a time for you to store up a couple of extra weeks of gas. But on a normal day-to-day basis, I try and keep a week's worth on hand to get us through, all of our vehicles through for a week. But just watch the pumps. The pumps are going to be your tell.
Well, another thing too is you got to be careful of is leakage. And
Mhm.
I had a gas can; it was a jerry can, and all of a sudden I could smell gas.
Yeah.
And went over, and it was just must have been a pinhole somewhere.
Yeah.
And so, and I kept that can. I put it aside and I mark it because I can actually go to the station, fill it up, and then use it if I need to right then. But otherwise, just watch for that.
Ryan W says, question: if you can only spend $20 a month on preps and starting from scratch, how would you spend it? Keep up the great work.
Thank you. First thing I would do is food.
Bulk rice, bulk beans, dried rice, dried beans would be my first couple, just because you can get a lot of it really cheap. That would be the first couple that I would get.
And rice and beans make a complete protein.
That's right.
Now, unfortunately, you're not going to live, but you're not going to be able to be, it's not going to be palatable, but for so long of eating just rice and beans, unless you live in a third world country where they've gotten used to it. But, you want to do that and then maybe get some bouillon, get some different things that might season it.
That's
just make
right.
sure you have salt. But one thing that I would highly recommend is water having some way to filter water. And even if you just get a filter straw, I mean, if you're doing $20 a week, a small little Frontier Aquamira filter straw, don't get the Brita or whatever. Those are just filter clean water. They're not going to filter out water that you find in a pond or a tank or some kind of resource. So, but water, you can only live 3 days without water. So, and then two, you can store up a little bit of water, some 1 gallon jugs. It's 1 gallon per person per day. But water and food are vital. Those are the two. Medical is also important. But, on a super limited budget, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And so, but yeah, I would start with food. And I mean, the thing is, guys, is even if nothing happens and you just eat your food, and you should be rotating it anyway.
That's right.
But yeah, I would start out, like Robbie said, that's an excellent choice, is to get beans and rice, and then, then expand from there as you can, and then get you some kind of filter for water. You have water, city water. You may have a well, and if you have a well, that might be a little bit different. You might want to continue to do food.
And the thing is too, if you've got city water and you've got gallon jugs that you can store water in, start keeping all of your milk jugs, wash your milk jugs, and use those as water storage. Then you can start putting water back and storing water, so you have extra water stored.
The problem is storage a lot of times with water.
Space.
So, your space.
Robin in Virginia asks, why are the food and other items shortages so random? The more expensive stores, Wegmans, Publix, Whole Foods, seem to be stocked well. They're also shopped well, even though they're pricey.
Well, a lot of times they go more into the unusual type foods. I mean, and when I say usual, higher end foods. I worked for a company that we actually worked with Whole Foods. And so there's a lot of smaller companies that they deal with that are a lot of times have their own trucks or do their own thing, specialty, gourmet, health food, different things. So they're probably going to be a little bit easier to do. A lot of times some of these stores actually work with local farmers.
That's right.
So with their meat and things like that, they're getting it in. We have a really great store. We have Whole Foods and all that, but we also have Fresh Market, which my wife goes there every Tuesday because they have this huge sale on their meat.
Yep.
And we've even seen some shortages there. But yeah, you're right. They typically do better. The problem with some of these real big national chains is they have these big trucks that are running food all the time. And so they usually only have about 3 days worth of food in the grocery store.
That's right.
So that's probably what you're seeing. But the thing is, guys, is we watched this here. We watched, of course, I don't go to Walmart, but the huge Walmart here with food. And then there's a big other grocery store here that does food. And we started seeing shortages there, but we didn't see it at the Aldi, which is more of a specialty type place. Now we're seeing it at Aldi.
That's right.
We weren't seeing it at first. So you're going to see it. It's just that now they're keeping up with it for different reasons. But, if it gets, the more it gets across the board, the more people are going to be looking for alternatives. And that's kind of what we're thinking about, going ahead and finding out your alternative.
Jack Bauer asks, with everything happening, would you stock or buy more rifle ammo in case it dries up with Russia shortages, all the craziness in the world?
Yeah. We'll probably, I don't have any insider information on this, but I would highly I would not be surprised if we started seeing 7.62 by 3.9 and, Russian, just the
A lot of
7.4
your
ammunition.
your imported ammunition.
Yeah,
Yep.
your ammunition, because they're going to be diverting a lot
Mm-hmm.
to, and it's according to how this thing goes.
Right.
I mean, it may just be a rollover, and that's probably what's going to happen. There may be some fighting, but it may not be into an all out, like it would if we were involved.
No, but then you're going to have economic sanctions on different countries that's going to affect ammunition imports and exports. And I think that's where you're really going to start seeing a lot of your shortages with imported ammunition is going to be on sanctions against different countries that support or don't support what's going on in the Ukraine right now. But that's where you're going to see a big majority of your ammunition shortages is going to be from sanctions.
But it's funny because we already had sanctions against Russia for ammunition and import in guns and stuff. So we'll just have to see. But yeah, I mean, especially if you have a Soviet or an Eastern Bloc kind of design, like an AK, I would be definitely stocking up a little more than normal.
A lot more while it's available.
Yeah, while it's available.
Rob G asked, what about catching rainwater? Is there any difference in nutritional contamination levels?
I'll say this. Well, it's according to where you live. If you live in a real urban area or where there's a highly industrial area, you could possibly do that. One thing about rainwater, because we have rain catchment systems, and I'm going to tell you what, the water is so fresh and pure. Even when I was mixing some concrete one time and I was using some water and I was like, oh, that water, what the heck? It smells so good.
Yep.
So much better than what you have in your tap. But you still need to filter that water. And I would say, and I always recommend the Big Berkey filtration system. Big Berkey is the best out there. We use it on an everyday basis. We use it for coffee, tea, cooking. I mean, we use it for everything. And we have one of the big Imperials, so we can filter it. But even rainwater, it could have, now it's going to be better than your creek water, but it still could have some contaminants. So have a way to filter that out. And you'll want to pre-filter that water when you pour it in case any kind of sediment or anything gets in there.
Because you're still getting it's still runoff, whether you're catching it off of your roof or off of tin or off of plastic, it's still runoff. So it's still getting some different kind of contaminants and stuff. It can get some different microbes in it. And that's where you want to make sure that you strain it, like you said, as well as filter it before you drink it.
Walt asked, I want to invest in powdered eggs. Any thoughts on what brand?
I've tried a number of different type powdered eggs, and actually there are some really good ones out there, but it's been a while. I haven't really messed with it. My wife does most of the research on food. So she handles that, so I wish I could give you a specific brand.
And we've locally here, we've got so many little small farms that we can get fresh eggs. That powdered eggs have never been something that I've looked into.
Well, it may be for, especially if you're in an urban, you might be able to get out. I mean, stocking up. I can see the appeal of it.
There's definitely a niche and an area for it, for sure.
But no, I wish I could give you something, but I just don't have that. Okay, let's go to one more question, and we're going to jump on to. Let's see here. And these are good questions, by the way.
Journeyman Outfitter asked, I just bought a new house and am thinking about a hidden underground cellar for both freedom seeds and canning. What size storage would be the best?
Yeah, well, the biggest,
as big as you can build it,
the biggest you can. Yeah. But you want to definitely have a lot of room in it. My grandfather did that. They had a basement, but then they had a section you could go into, and it was still dirt. But he had that whole area for doing that.
Well, you've got your roots, your root cellar, where you can store your potatoes, you can store your carrots, sweet potatoes, white potatoes. You can store all your potatoes, your carrots, your onions in that root cellar, and they will keep forever, right? And then you do your shelving in there. You can do all of your canned goods, store all of your canned goods in there. So really, look at it long term, how long you're wanting to try and store food. If you're looking for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and then base your size off of how long and how much food you're wanting to put up and store. Yeah,
I mean, and it's according to what you're doing. I mean, 10 by 10 would be great, but if you had to go smaller, you could do that as well. But yeah, to me, that's one of the best. The problem we have here at our place is that we were going to put in, my brother-in-law actually built our house and we bought it from him, but we were going to put in a basement. I love basements. I grew up with basements. The rock here is so huge, they could not do it. And so, I'm a little jealous. So, but good luck with that. Okay. Now, one thing that I just want to thank Sportsman's Guide again. $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, because we do appreciate Sportsman's Guide. But okay, so we just mentioned flea markets. Flea markets are just a huge resource.
Yep.
And guys, yes, it's used stuff, but a lot of times you can get great prices on things. And guys, can openers are something very important to have. You can open a can without a can opener, but it is not fun.
Yep.
So having a good manual can opener. But I just want to throw that in.
We haven't had, you talk about that. We haven't had an electric can opener in 15 years at least, at the least.
Right.
The last one that we had lasted a year or two and went in the garbage. I went out and bought a couple of just manual can openers. That's all we use now.
Right.
I wouldn't.
That's all we use, actually. That's all we've had them before. But a lot of times people don't. And so, having can opener, of course, a lot of them are pull tops and all that. But having a good can opener. You can use a bayonet like they do in the military,
or the little keychain P38s.
Yeah,
I mean, they work. You're going to have a
P38s.
blister by the time you're done, but they do work.
Yeah, I've used those. That's a pain in the butt. Now, so flea markets are big, yard sales, and we're getting ready to come into that season. And I'll tell you what, guys, I've bought some really cool stuff at yard sales. I went to this one. This girl was a rock climber. Or a cave. She was a caver, and she had all kind of headlamps and sleeping bags and tents and all this stuff, and it was just dirt cheap. Went in and just bought a bunch of stuff, So, and then of course, there's all kind of different things you can find. So, yard sales are great. Having a yard sale is great. If you want to get rid of some stuff, you want to barter and trade some stuff.
And I tell you, one you don't have on your list that's a big one for a lot of people nowadays is Facebook Marketplace.
I got that on there.
Steal my thunder.
We can go straight to that though if you want. Okay,
let's
go ahead, Robbie. Go with it, man. Go with it.
Facebook Marketplace. Your social media outlets for buying, selling, trading, bartering items is a big one. A lot of your local communities, you've still got buy, sell, and trade papers. They've also got online resource for that. But online resources for buying, selling, and trading items it's a good thing to have. We use it all the time at home. The boys outgrow stuff. We use it to get rid of a lot of their old clothes, toys and stuff that they don't play with anymore. But it's a great resource.
Yeah, it is a great resource and great prices. We bought some bar stools just a while back from online, some kind of online, and it was probably Facebook.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of local groups that get together and they buy and sell and trade, people that know each other on Facebook Marketplace. And then we have, your regular Etsy. Etsy's a good one. It's kind of different. It's, it's really grown a lot.
Yep.
But, you have your big ones like eBay. And then we're talking about new stuff, but also used stuff.
That's right.
And sometimes you can get better prices. And as we're seeing inflation go, sometimes that can be even more attractive.
Well, and not just better prices, but a lot of times alternative payment methods as well.
Wow.
Where you're not necessarily having to pay cash for something. You're looking on Facebook Marketplace, you see something that you like, you can always reach out to that person and offer to trade something to them for what they have versus coming out of pocket with cash if you're low on cash.
Right. And barter is, in fact, barter's coming up as well.
Yep. I'm always jumping ahead.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like it, man. You're forward thinking.
But it's just my segue into it.
Yeah. But, eBay's a great one. Yep. I'm always buying different things on eBay.
eBay's dangerous.
It is dangerous. I got on tool fetish for a while. These old vintage tools, man. Next thing I know, I'm like, what am I going to do with all these tools? But, having, and tools are important. I mean, when you're out of stock, sometimes, I'm getting ahead of myself now. You need to be able to improvise. You need to be able to improvise. And what I say a lot of times is you need to improvise to survive. And so, you may say, man, I need this. And so instead of going to the store, you may be able to actually make it.
That's right.
You might be able to produce it. And so, or you may be able to use something that you've already got and be able to trade with it. So having an open mind to not go, oh man, I need this. Oh, let me get on Amazon real quick and order that, which is so easy to do. But knowing knowing about, how do I need to make things right now? In fact, we're doing a video right now on a small little stove made out of just cans, cardboard, and oil. And it makes a really cool stove. The video's coming up. But there's things that you just can do. One thing that I've done over the years on Sensible Prepper is 25 ways to use a safety pin, 25 uses for plastic water bottles. That video went nuts.
Dude, those are some of my favorite videos. Because people don't realize the amount of research that goes into producing one of those videos.
All up here, man. All up here.
I know.
You're right, though.
The amount of research that goes into producing those videos. You got to pull it from here to here and out to here.
You need to be your own MacGyver sometimes when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And you're able to improvise and to do things that, because we're so used to this disposable mentality where we buy something and when it breaks, you just throw it away. This gives you some ideas to be able to go, hey, I hadn't really thought about that. And that's happened to me a number of times. But yeah, there are a number of different videos like that we put out, and other people have too, where it's just how to take just common everyday items. I even did one on tampons, and I did one on condoms.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing the things you're not thinking about these things when you're looking at a condom.
Well, there's this old saying that I've done so much with so little for so long that I can now do anything with nothing.
That's a good one.
And it's really, with kind of the way that things are going today, that's really a good mentality to have, is that I can take nothing and make something out of it that suits my needs for what I'm doing at that moment.
That's right. When you look back like at our grandparents who went through the Great Depression.
That's right.
I mean, my grandmother, I can remember, she had tinfoil stacked up in a cabinet, and they always save stuff like that. And that's also part of thinking ahead.
That's right.
If we're out of these items, what can we reuse? My wife and I tell her all the time, like, you crazy. She takes those Ziploc plastic bags and she'll wash them out. And I'm going, those are cheap. What are you doing? You know what? She's recycling.
That's
It's a great way to do it. For me, I kind of, when she's not looking, I might throw it. But, that's a great thing to think about these things through, and also to take care of the things that you have.
Yep.
Okay. So, online sources, and we already talked about it, but one thing I did want to delve into a little bit is gun side, firearm side. And one of the things is AmmoSeek. That's a great resource. It's AmmoSeek.com. If you're looking for certain kinds of ammo, you can type in that caliber and it'll give you all these dealers that have it in stock.
That's right.
Now the prices, are all, and it'll start with the lowest prices,
lowest to highest,
and go down to the highest. So you might be able to find something, especially if you have a caliber that's unusual. One way I find calibers, in fact, I went to the gun show this last weekend, and found some ammunition that I needed that I haven't been able to find anywhere else. Yes, it was expensive, but it was some ammunition that I needed. Also, Gunbroker. Gunbroker is one of my favorite sources. In fact, that's worse than eBay because it gets expensive. But a lot of times there are some, and if you really watch, sometimes you can get some really good prices, and then sometimes you can pay a lot more because people get into an auction. But it's just a way to find some things.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the penny auctions on Gunbroker.
Yeah,
like you said, that's a lot of times that you can bid on one of the penny auctions on there, and you may bid on 100 of them, but every now and then you'll hit one and you'll get a smoking deal on a firearm or ammunition or accessory. So I highly recommend looking at the penny auctions that they have. It's a great opportunity, one, to have some fun without, maybe without spending any money, but also get some great deals on stuff.
And it's all above board. They'll ship it to your FFL and that kind of stuff. But a lot of times you can get good prices. But be creative. And that goes into improvising. Be creative. One of the things, especially in third world countries, which we did a video about third world countries and what they do, and they'll take like plastic bottles, they make windows out of them. Yeah. They go into different places and find scraps and things, which leads us to the next, our raw materials. How many times have you gone down the road and seen a pile of pallets sitting on the side of the road for anybody to pick up? I mean, they'll put them on the side of the road. And there's one place local to us, and I pick up pallets sometimes because I use them. Because you can take those pallets apart and you can make shelving, you can make tables. I mean, you can use the pallet as it is.
And a lot of them are hardwood.
Yeah, a lot of them are.
The industrial ones, all of your industrial pallets, they're not made out of the cheap white pine. They're made out of thicker hardwood.
So, and two, again, now you may want to stop and ask, hey, these pallets, but usually what'll happen is I'll see them and I'll think I might run by and grab those. I come back, they're gone.
Yeah.
So people are picking these up, but they're out there. I saw one company that has pallets, and instead of stocking them up across the street, they just threw them into the ditch. And there's like all these pallets in this ditch. And I'm down there. No, Another thing too is at construction sites.
Yes.
the big dumpsters. Now, don't take anything that's not in the dumpster. That's the number one rule. But if there's stuff in those dumpsters, they're having to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And you'll find 2x4s, sheet,
quarter
woods,
sheet, half sheets of plywood. Yep.
That are maybe a little short. Maybe it was something they just needed. They didn't need the rest.
Yep.
You can find a lot of lumber and things like that you can get.
Yeah. And with those, I always recommend, trying to find the site foreman there for that job, for that building project. Be like, hey, can I go through your dumpster and get whatever, scrap wood you have out of your dumpster? 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, yeah, sure. Take whatever you want. Because they're having to pay to dispose of all of that wood that they're not using.
Right.
And the can't even talk. The less material, I know I'm doing a tremendous job at it. The less material that's in the dumpster, the less money that they have to pay to dispose of that dumpster.
Right. So it's a win-win.
It is.
It's a win-win.
Absolutely.
You just need a place to make sure you have a place to put it.
That's right. Or haul it, because there can be a lot of wood in those dumpsters.
Yeah, there can be. Construction sites, things like that. Okay. So, and then there are other places that you can go. Another thing you can do is and this is on the side of materials, but you can take scrap metal and things like that. And you can take it to a refinery and they'll give you cash for it. There's a lot of things like that you can do. So, there's just so many different ideas to be able to move you from being this consumer to maybe thinking more of alternative methods, just what we've been presented. These grocery stores are great at marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, shop here. Oh, we got got this. You see the big trucks. Those big trucks may not be making it to those places. So look for those alternative shopping places. Look for those alternative material sources. And, and we were talking about gas a minute ago. One thing that is important to do is to keep your gas tank topped off. Always just, you start to get down, make sure you keep it topped off. Because that's the best place to store gas is in your gas tank.
That's right.
But having those on the side. Okay. Let me see. Oh, and another thing too is food buckets. I have them on the list. Food buckets. One thing we've done over the years is we'll go to a bakery or we'll go to a meat market or go somewhere. And a lot of times they'll just give you tons of those buckets, the smaller sizes like delis, they have the smaller sizes. Then you have the big ones. And a lot of times with pickle barrels and all the different things they put in there. Those are great containers, not only to use for long-term food storage is what we were usually buying it for, but also to haul water. Because if you have, let's say you have a water source that's 100 yards from your house and you're like, well, I got water down there and I got a filter, but how are you going to get that water from there to here? And we don't keep pails around like we used to.
Right.
I mean, you might have some, but that's a long
and
way.
a 5-gallon bucket. That's 40 pounds.
Yeah, it's
with water
heavy.
in it.
It's heavy. So, you need to be considering if I need to get water. Listen, guys, if we put sanctions against Russia, and this is something that just hit me, they've already been doing cyber attacks into the U.S. Don't think that our infrastructure could get really hammered, especially if this thing with the Ukraine draws out. So we could really be seeing a lot of intensified strikes. And what happens is we've already lost all of our leverage because we've already put all these sanctions against them anyway. So they don't really have anything to lose.
Yeah.
So, we need to be watching that. And two, with fuel, of course, Europe right now, because they're cutting off that pipeline, they're not going to be getting the fuel they were getting from Russia, which puts a higher stress on us for various reasons that we have screwed ourselves on our own energy sources. So, okay, let's go to some questions if we've got a few, and we'll kind of wrap it up. Yes.
Bad Dog Bobby asked, I understand rabbit is lacking in an essential element or protein. Have you heard anything?
No, I haven't ever heard that. I mean, it's just like if you eat just beef all the time, I'm sure that there may be some or different ones. But
there could be
I've
a
never heard
different
that.
protein or something that you're missing, but no. And, that's why we always try and eat a variety of different meats, whether it's fish or chicken or beef or pork, rabbit, whatever. We try and eat a variety and not just one specific type of meat. So.
But that's interesting. I want to research that because I'm just curious, but thank you.
Your friend in Vermont asked, question, what to do with picky eaters?
Well, there's so much that you can do toward that. I have a buddy of mine that's a big prepper, and he has these twin daughters, and all they like is macaroni and cheese. That's just what they like, and they eat that. And he stocks up a lot of macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
But
I've always been the exact opposite with my boys. I'm like, this is what we're eating. You can eat it or not. Yeah. And here's the thing that I've found. If they get hungry enough, they'll eat it.
Well, let me put this out there though. My younger brother, when he was coming along, he got to where he wouldn't eat nothing. He'd eat pizza.
Yeah.
And he was little. I mean, he was like 4 or 5.
Right.
The doctor finally said, because they took him and he just wouldn't eat, and said, you've got to get him pizza because he just will not eat, and he's losing weight. It was really a strange situation.
Yeah.
Now, for us, it's the same thing. I'm feel like, hey, here's the food, but on the other hand, you may have to cater your preps to things like that. But you can only do so much. And, unfortunately, I like food and everything else. There's some things I don't like. I don't want. But you know what? If I don't have any other food left, I'll eat what I have. I mean, my daughter, she hates beans. Sarah Mac hates beans.
I tell you, it's weird. I've never cannot stand the taste of raw tomatoes. My entire life, I can't stand the smell of them, can't stand the taste of them. Only raw tomatoes, though. It's weird.
I am too. I'm like that.
I like cooked tomatoes with, boiled, steamed, fried, ketchup. Yeah. But raw tomatoes have never, I just don't like the taste of them. Since I've had COVID, I absolutely love raw tomatoes now.
That's hilarious.
I mean, I eat them all the time. And it's weird. I've had this weird sensory thing with my taste since I had it. And
me too.
So there's a lot of foods that I used to like that I can't taste anymore. But tomatoes, I guess with the acidity and everything, I can taste the tomato and my body's like, ooh, flavor. And it's clicked something in my brain that's like, hey, you can taste that. That's probably good for you to eat.
Right.
And I like tomatoes now.
Good. That's funny. Okay. Thanks, Robbie,
Sidebar.
for sharing that. We really appreciate
it. Sharing is caring. I just felt like sharing that today.
Robbie cares.
Yeah, I care.
Gunner asked, do you think bartering markets will pop up when things hit the fan?
Definitely.
Well, like we talked about earlier with the flea markets, the bartering markets are already there. The flea markets are already in place where you can go in there and buy, sell, and trade things. I just see, just like you said, I see those growing exponentially as things get worse and worse.
Right. Yeah. And you'll even see them spring up. Here's the thing. Let's say I'm kind of desperate and I need certain things. I'm going to take a table and put it out at the end of my street, and I'm going to set up a bunch of stuff on there, and people are going to do that.
Yep.
And you'll see markets. One of the things
pop-up markets.
Yeah. One of the things that happen, and you see it all over the world. And that's another thing. There are markets everywhere.
We're one of the few countries that don't really have pop-up markets. Most of your other countries in the world have these little pop-up markets that every day, a certain spot in town, boom, a bunch of people just show up and buy and sell stuff. And we don't really have that here. We've got our stores, then we've got our flea markets and stuff. And then people have yard sales.
Regulations stop a lot of that.
Yep.
But back in 2008, and during that time where we had that recession, a lot of stores started taking actually silver as trade for cash. I mean, they would sell items if you brought in silver, obviously gold. So silver and gold definitely are something to think about, guys. And I talk about that.
Homer the Conqueror asked, do you guys see total society collapse coming with the shortages and Russia and China teaming up? Is it a new arms race, Cold War? Are we best to lay low now in our mags?
Nobody knows. And I don't typically look at a total, like a back to the, Mad
Stone
Max
Age
and stuff like that. I don't personally, I'm not discounting that and saying that will not happen, but to me, the chances of that happening are very minimal. I think that what's going to happen to us is we're going to move more and more into a third world type situation is what I'm afraid of. And one of the things that happened in Argentina was when they had their collapse in 2001 was that he said there was no SHTF. He goes, there was no one day, this is it. He goes, it was a gradual just slowly going down to the pit. He goes, but the other side of it was crime started doing this. And that's exactly what we're seeing now.
That's right.
And one of the things about Argentina was it was at one time per capita one of the richest countries in the world with natural resources that are unbelievable, one of the top food producers in the world, and people were going hungry. Same thing happening in Venezuela.
And in Venezuela, I was just going to say.
Those kind of things to me are what's, and the more that the government passes more regulations and they're tearing up our industry, honestly, the worse this is going to get. It's going to be exponential. So that's more how I see it. I see it kind of a slow, but it's getting quicker and faster to where it's one of those things. It's like somebody says, if you throw a frog into boiling water, he'll jump right out. But if you put him in the water and it's kind of nice and warm and you just turn up that heat, you'll boil that frog. And that's to me what's happening to us. But guys, the heat is turning up. And that's the whole point of Sensible Prepper.
That's right.
Is to prepare. Don't go nuts. Don't go crazy. Start to prepare.
Walt asked, is there a cheaper way to filter water to buy than the Berkey filter?
I'm sure there are. I mean, there are different filter systems out there. To me, Berkey is the best out there unless you go into big bucks. But even then, your drinking water has more chlorine in it. Our drinking water has more chlorine in it than our pool does. So they are really attacking that water to make sure it's, but it's not good for you. But I haven't, really, we've been using the Berkey system for over 10 years. I think 12 years now. And it's worth it. It is so worth it. But one thing you can do is get their filters and get a plastic bucket. You can set up. There's all kind of inexpensive ways to set up even those Berkshire black filters. But I'd say just do some research. But really, I think $250 for a big Berkey is money super well spent. And honestly, that will last you probably 10 years because you won't use it like we do. I think we had ours 6 years before we replaced the filters.
Yeah.
So.
John G asked, is there any way to track when it's time to change the filters on the Berkey?
Yeah. What we do is when it starts to get slower slower, the filter, the rate going into your reservoir, and then you take it out and you clean them and then it'll speed it up for a while. And sooner or later, you'll just know because it'll start to trickle.
That's right. Yeah, when you turn the valve on and instead of a nice steady stream, you get almost like the valve stopped up in it. The water gets slower and slower coming out. That's your tell that it's time to put new filters in. Yeah,
and it's funny because the guy who I got my big Berkey, original big Berkey, the Berkey guy, great guy by the way. Just check Berkey guy, and he has great deals on Berkeys. He told me, he was laughing about it. He goes, really? He goes, I don't know why you'd need another filter.
Yeah.
He said, because the big Berkey has 2 and they're 3,000 gallons each. The Imperial, which we have, has 4 and it's 3,000. We can filter 12,000 gallons of water and we have extra filters just, because we've already been through one set of filters. But again, we use it every day.
Pure Blood 1775 asks, how long do you think non-ethanol gasoline lasts with and without stabilizer?
It depends on how it's stored.
Yeah.
If you've got big temperature swings, really hot, really cold, really humid, a lot of times that degrades the ethanol gas a lot quicker. If you're able to store it in a climate controlled environment like an underground tank, it's going to last a lot longer. You're looking at, if you're like in a garage, non-temperature controlled garage where you've got big temperature swings, maybe a year before it really starts breaking down, maybe a little less than that. And then with the fuel stabilizer, it'll probably double the life of it and get you around 2 years.
Right. And this is the guy who knows about those kind of things. But, the one thing about ethanol a lot of times is when you keep it like in your lawnmower or you put it in your small engines, it'll actually it'll decay the rings and the gaskets in there first.
That's the biggest thing. It eats up all of your seals in your carburetor. It eats up your gaskets in your carburetor. Not eats them up. It makes them dry and brittle. It soaks into the rubber and the different pores, and it makes them really dry and brittle and makes them crack. And then that's where you start having issues where your carburetor is leaking. The float bowl won't seal up, and it just pours gas all the time. It's because that ethanol gas has got in there and it's dried out the seals in your carburetor.
And yeah, and I would buy non-ethanol gas whenever possible.
Yep.
A lot of stations have it.
Synth Gunner asks, do you add anything to rain barrels to prevent microbial film?
No, just some kind of filter screen, but there's only so much we can do, but we count on our big Berkey to take care of a lot of that. But we pre-filter it before. So as we're pouring water out of it, we take like a t-shirt or something like that, and then let the water flow through it. It catches a lot of the debris and then we filter it through the system. But I'm sure there are ways that you can do it, but typically, it's coming off your roof into your gutter, down your gutter, your gutter pipes into the barrel. And there's only so much you can do with that. Maybe even a pre-filter screen here, but when that water is really coming down, and I'm going to tell you what, you have a rainwater, man, those things will fill up really fast. So you need to make sure you have some, a relief valve, or at least something to let that water pour out, because it will.
And I tell you, for a pre-filtering option, something to consider is, and anybody that has a well at their house is going to know what I'm talking about. There are these filters that you can, inline filter that you use for your well. Well, off of the bottom of your rain catchment system, you run a little stub pipe out and you put this inline filter that you use to filter your water that comes out of the jug, out of your catchment system. And you can pre-filter your water right there. And they've got different, you can go down like, I think 50 micron is the smallest you can go down to. We normally, like for our well water, we normally only use a 5 micron filter that filters out, like sediment and stuff like that. And then we change it monthly. But you can go all the way down to a 50 and maybe smaller than that with some of the carbon filters to be able to pre-filter your water coming out of your rain catchment system right into your bucket.
Oh, that was good. I'm gonna have to implement that. Thank you, Robbie. That was worth you coming.
There's my contribution for the day, guys.
Base Texan asks, tips for finding garage sales aside from randomly driving everywhere.
Yeah, I can understand that. I'm sure that especially with Facebook, if you use Facebook, there'll be certain group areas, they'll have a Facebook page, where people like to put it out, because people do. But I understand about going to different areas like that. One thing that I do, and this is just a tip, this is a pro tip. Go to the nicer areas. Go to the more affluent areas that have yard sales, because you find a lot of really good quality stuff. And it's a great thing. If you go down to the other areas, and sometimes you can find things, but typically your better quality items are going to be in a more affluent, nicer neighborhood. But yeah, even in the local paper, which if you have a local paper anymore,
right.
But I'm sure that even on, like, we have a local news, I'm sure they have a section that may have a place to do that.
I know there's a lot of if you have Facebook and you use Facebook, there's a lot of Facebook marketplace or Facebook groups for your area that will list yard sales. So you can go in there and just put whatever town you live in, the name of the town and yard sales, and search it. And you should be able to find a private group in there that actually lists all of the yard sales in your area every week.
There may even be like this app, this like yard sale finder, and you can put local areas. I'm just talking out of my.
Could be.
Maybe we ought to start one.
Somebody said GSLR is a good resource for garage sales.
GSLR. There you go. Check out GSLR.
Gary Hernandez, Self-Defense and Urban Survival asks, what do you think about a walking cane for self-defense in today's world?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about self-defense is, especially with some places that can't even have self-defense as far as a firearm, yes, anything like that, a cane, think about your belt, pull that belt off if you need it.
Canes are a great low visibility tool.
Right.
You see somebody with a cane and you don't think that person's walking with that cane and as a weapon,
with a sword in it.
Right. But the backside of that is, if you're going to use a cane as a weapon, make sure you've got some training with it and know how to properly utilize that, because there's some balance points and everything that you could really get yourself messed up and in a bad situation if you get off balance trying to use one of those.
Watch the Kingsman. I think he uses a cane on this last one. But yeah, there's a lot of things. One of the things that, and I want to segue a little bit off that, and I always say this, one of the number one self-defense tools that are non-lethal is a flashlight. A flashlight that you have a little bit of length to it, so you can use this as an impact tool. Plus, you can carry a cane or a flashlight about anywhere.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I think a cane could be an exceptional self-defense option. Okay, it's 1 o'clock.
And one of the big things I like about the flashlight is not only as a striking tool, but as a way to be able to create distance quickly. You pull a flashlight out and hit somebody in the eyes with a flashlight, it's going to buy you a couple of seconds to create some separation and put distance in between somebody that's a threat and yourself.
That's right.
So, which is, seconds matter.
Right. That's right. That's good. Okay. Well, guys, we really appreciate all the great questions. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with us for a little while. And we really appreciate Robbie Wheaton for being here. As always, check out his new revived YouTube channel.
Yes, sir.
Robbie Wheaton or WheatonArms.com. You can put both in.
Yep.
And he's doing a lot of cool things.
Yeah, so, it's been fun. It's been really fun. We've got a lot of neat projects in the works. We've been doing some gun reviews lately, but we've got some stuff that's not so gun related that's going to be coming up as well. So keep an eye out for that.
And also, we appreciate Sportsman's Guide. $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch. No 00, just Sootch. And
yep. And make sure you check out the Buyers Club as well. The Buyers Club, you get additional savings as well as free shipping on a lot of their items.
Yeah, I just ordered something. It actually was pretty large, and I'm part of the Buyers Club. I got my discount, and then I thought that's a pretty big item. I'm going to see what the shipping is. Yeah, and it was free shipping.
Free shipping. Yep.
So there are sometimes some charges here and there, but a lot of times it is. So anyway, we really do. And also ScottsdaleMint.com. Scottsdale Mint, links down below in the description. Guys, if you're looking to diverse your investments, that's a great way to do it. It's tangible. It's in your hands. And the guys at Scottsdale Mint, they mint coins for over 20 countries, national coins for over 20 countries in the world. These guys are honest to goodness mints. They're not just brokers.
That's right.
So check out Scottsdale Mint. And also, we really appreciate Sarah Mack for monitoring the questions and keeping us in line, which is a major feat. So guys, thanks again. And we will be going to Prepper School 16. There is a playlist down on the channel page, and it's a playlist of all the different prepper schools. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.